doing introductions. And I'll probably do a couple of introductions, just nobody ever comes in totally at the same time. So I'll keep an eye on that. Hi, everyone. Looks like we have a few folks starting to come in now. I'm Ani King. My pronouns are they and them, and I am the COO with allcounselors.com. I'm really excited to be here today with Billie Topa Tate to talk about Indigenous Native American culture underneath the banner of inclusive therapy. And in just a minute, I'll have Billie tell you a little bit more about herself. These webinars are sponsored as well by integrativelifecenter.com. Feel free to check them out. They do a lot of great work with folks who are in the recovery space, in addition to inpatient and outpatient and residential programs. So we'll take just a minute to let a few more folks come in. While we're doing that, Billie Topa Tate is a Mescalero Apache, as well as a Reiki master and somebody who does a lot of different kinds of work in healing and therapy and other processes. She's also the founder of MSI. And Billie, I'll let you, if you don't mind, take over. Tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about your center.
Hello, everyone. Many blessings to all of you. It's a pleasure and honor to spend this time with you. My name is Billie Topa Tate. That's my Native American name, and it means four winds. But my Apache personal name is Wazayata, wind that sings. And I'm trained as an elder, as a medicine woman, to really kind of help the community, but also to continue to share oral tradition of the Mescalero Apache tradition. And as Ani said, I have a wonderful center in Evanston, Illinois called MSI Wellness Center. We've been here for 20-something years. And our goal is to create a sacred space one person at a time. And really, that's the only way that we can engage and change, by mentoring and also by sharing with one person at a time, and allowing that for to be a real healing medicine for people. And I've taught at many different kinds of venues, and this is one that I'm looking forward to today. And I've also taught at Northwestern University to not the medical students, but the pre-meds for the past 5 years, and really about Indigenous wellness and how energy, mind, body, and energy works in the body, and which is really nice that they've incorporated that into the protocol. And I've also taught at the Cancer Treatment Center of America for many, many years, to their mind body division and also their pain division. I've also taught at Rush Hospital to some of the doctors there and nurses about Indigenous wellness and also energy, how it works in the body as we perceive it to be. And but I'm also an author. I have books on Amazon, but we also have them on our website, which is msi-healing.com. And also I've been published in a number of magazines, and, I just enjoy sharing information about our tradition and how it can be of service to communities in the public sector. So our goal, of course, as we said, is to create a sacred space one person at a time. And that takes time, but that's something that we love to do, because the more information that we share, the more our wonderful Mother Earth and all living systems on this wonderful Mother Earth will engage in a way that is wise and very productive, and also in a healing way. So that's our goal, whether it's to introduce plant medicines or energy sessions, wellness understandings of the Indigenous people, our wonderful stories about our elders who have taught us so very much, All those things are part of our center here at in Evanston. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks so much, Billy. I really appreciate you telling us a bit more about yourself and your purpose. I think that that's one of the things that we really want to talk about today. For folks who are providing, clinical services, therapy, mental health, and wellness services to Indigenous people in the U.S., helping them understand, what are some things that they should be aware of? Are there some obviously not everyone who is Native American has the same experience. It's not a monolith like any other collection of cultures. But I'm wondering if you can talk about, are there some common things that folks who are not Native should be aware of when they are working with Indigenous clients?
Well, that's a wonderful question. One of the basic structures of the total umbrella of the Native Indigenous people of America is the common understanding that we have this goal of reconnecting with our tradition to reconnect with the Creator. So and so that is the and that is we were the way the stories were given to us as Apache people is the Great Spirit, the Creator, provided us training to be stewards of the land. And we were in the process of learning how to understand the land and the regions and the energy here. And so we have some wonderful stories about that. But the basic understanding when we're interacting with Native people is to have some understanding that there is this great stewardship that was provided in our training to understand the land, and that the land has wisdom, and that we know even with when we had the shelter in place, one of the most important things that people reacted to was they wanted to get out in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very intuitive thing. Everyone knows that being around what we call the green nation, and the green nation is the trees, the plants, the botanicals, everything provides such a vitality for us. So we we know that all Native people, we have this kingship with not only the earth, but also all the animals and plants. They're a very important part of our stewardship. And sometimes what transpires is because of trauma or stress. Our our Native warriors that go out to do service and be in the army and everything, and they come back. And what we do is we give them an inipi ceremony. An inipi means a sweat lodge to clear their energy field of all the trauma that they've experienced and seen, because we all know that we when we view trauma, it kind of stays in our consciousness and our spirit, and also in our energy field. So we do this ceremony to clear them so that they can acclimate to their families much more substantially, as opposed to seeing those traumas continuously in their energy field. So we know that energy is very real. We are built upon energy. We are energy, and so that's one of the things that's really important for us is our tradition of ceremonies that we have been given by our elders to that have great wisdom, and to maintain homeostasis of our energy field. So when our warriors come back, we try to to give them the ceremony to clean that energy field, so that they don't have the reinitialize those traumas continuously in their mind, and they acclimate much more substantially to their families when they have those wonderful ceremonies. So ceremony and a kingship with the land is something that is very, very important to the Native people. And it really allows us to really create that connection, and from that place we can move into our great purpose. I
Thank
hope
you.
I
That's
answered.
that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that really struck me as you were talking about stewardship of the land is that, helping people heal, helping people find themselves is a stewardship of sort as well. And I think that parallel of, helping people connect to the thing that, kind of uh, struggling with the word there, but that connect to something that is deeper than themselves and also a part of themselves is really important. I'm curious for folks who are not Indigenous Native Americans who are working with clients who are there some ways that you would tell them that it's, a good way to encourage their folks to connect with the land, to connect to ceremony and ritual without especially not having knowledge of them, of the rituals, of some of the ways to connect, that would be really meaningful.
Mm-hmm. I really feel that in our when we sit and when we work with you know our indigenous people, we want to make sure that our surroundings are representing that rapport.
Mhm,
And it could be a simple thing as to have a plant,
mhm,
and maybe some aspects of other plants that are growing and can share their vitality and their medicine. One of the stories of our native tribe is about how we can, when we connect, well, first of all, it's a long story, but $2 version of this story is that the plant kingdom and all the other kingdoms on this planet, animal kingdom, plant kingdom,
mhm,
water kingdom, all the kingdoms on this planet have already achieved their great purpose. We're
mhm,
the only ones that have not. We're still striving for that. And the way the stories go is that all those kingdoms came to this wonderful Mother Earth to assist us in our journey,
mhm,
and they do. For example, flowers. We give them to people when they are either in the hospital needing a boost of wonderful energy, or when there's some kind of an accomplishment like they're graduating or their
mhm,
birthdays. And we do that naturally. We don't even know why we do that, but we
mhm,
do bring flowers or plants. And the reason why we do that is because they sustain their great purpose, and they engage us, they inspire us. When we're not feeling well and we see flowers or plants, we smell them, and we reestablish that, yes, there is this vitality, there is this life force, there is this wonderful purpose, and I'm connecting with it by engaging with the plant. And the same thing with people who are, going on like a graduation, or they
mhm,
they take those flowers and they say, yeah, I worked really hard, and now I'm smelling these flowers and I'm going, yes, and I'm connecting with that wonderful vitality once more. So having plants around, especially ones that are growing, and
mhm,
at different stages, are very, very good establishments of rapport. And also, people connect with that. It's just remarkable. So I would say, on that basic level, to have those things around and to have conversations around those plants, and say,
mhm,
this is a plant that, because Native people in their blood love stories. We're
mhm,
storytellers, and we really enjoy, the stories. And the stories really are a way that our elders have taught us, how to think about certain things in different perspectives. And so it's really a great thing. So, having plants at different stages, and really fragrant ones.
mhm.
Um, I like rosemary because it has a lot of wonderful fragrance to it, very easy to take care of. Talking about how we use that in our medicines, in our healing process, and all of those things. And also writing down, different kinds of things about plants, and then sharing that
Mhm.
is really good too.
Thank you. I was thinking too about just kind of came to mind all of the different times that we do offer plants to people and how they are often in those transitional stages. You know, when you have a housewarming, when you get your first big job, when you get married, when you do all of these things, you know, that representation of flowers or plants or something. And especially in some of them, you know, the potted plant or the, you know, not just here are some flowers and you have them temporarily because they've been cut, but here's something that's going to grow and grow with you as you nurture and, you know, stay connected to it.
Sure, and that is so true. And the second thing that I would recommend is it's already in our DNA, in our blood, that we start the day with, you know, a formal or informal aspect of what is called a sunrise ceremony. As a Native elder, we believe that when we rise, that we express an intention not only to establish gratitude for the day to the creator, but also to adjust our energy field to where we want to be by setting an intention in the morning. So before I start with my clients, I always ask for both of us to have a quiet moment to set an intention for this time that we're spending together. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be an expressed desire of, you know, of how we want things to go, but also gives us an opportunity to really kind of share with ourselves what it is that we would like to have at that moment. So, you know, we can, you know, say, well, we're going to have this, you know, time together. It would be, if you're comfortable doing it, just closing your eyes and just setting an intention. And the thing about that is, if they have been lost for a long time, and when I say lost, disconnected from their great purpose, they will look at that and say, I have not done that for a while. I need to do that. I need to set that intention for the day. I mean, I get everything I've asked for, but my batting average will be better. So, you know, that is another wonderful thing that they will find very refreshing when they're dealing with Native people. So,
Do you think, oh, thank you, sorry, didn't interrupt. Do you think that there are some prevailing things that make it more difficult for folks in Native communities to get mental health support at times?
well, I know that because of the relocation programs that transpired many, many years ago to remove them from the reservation to the inner cities, you know, that was an acclamation of lots of change, and also, you know, putting them on reservations. I mean, the symbolic representation is isolation, you know, of the communities, and also a separation that did not supply the energy of support and community, and things of that nature. So I would say, just from my field work, I would say that not only there some sort of energy of, okay, so I'm always in this form of isolation, or I don't know that the government really cares about me, things like that. Of course, we're probably all thinking that these days, but you know, here it is. And so it's a little difficult because lots of the Native people will go inward instead of reaching out and wanting to be helped. So there is that aspect of, you know, in the beginning, it probably is going to be a little bit of a task to allow them to create that rapport, and also feel comfortable that they would believe that someone could assist them.
I
So
think you know, that trust thing is so important, and also not, I imagine not surprising that it would be a lot of work to build some of that trust on the part of a clinician who doesn't have some of the same cultural connections and understanding. You know, just thinking historically about which we don't have time to get into all of those pieces, but even, you know, current times where if the government is saying, hey, we're offering these services, hey, we're offering these services, and being like, yes, but what what happens after that, and not wanting to, I very much can understand not wanting to take advantage of those services if they're coming from a place that you has already proven it can't be trusted.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that, with there are several things that is important to know. And the first thing is that, as a practitioner, it's very important for us to go inward ourselves,
Mhm.
and also to ask for, our wants and desires to be placed in a place where it's very wise, that we engage in a way that's very, respectful and honest, and but also to, to take that sacred space for ourselves and say, I want to be of service, and if I can gain insight by going inward to speak the words that will be of service to this person, that's my expressed desire. So as we express the desire to do that, then we are going to be able to get connected to a part of ourselves that has a lot of wonderful wisdom that can be shared at that moment. So, and of course, doing our homework, because Native Americans, there are different tribes, different cultures. I mean, yes, there are some basic structures there, but there's different cultures. I try to do my homework when I'm Apache. So if I'm working with a Lakota, we do different things, but we also have that different perspective in mind when we're engaging.
That makes a lot of sense, especially, the piece I think about not only going inward, but doing your homework, knowing, like making the effort and having the intention of learning a little bit more so that here are the places where I believe we can connect, and here are the places where maybe I can't make that connection, but I can be open to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Definitely. And meditation for us is so very important,
mhm.
so that we can create that sacred space within ourselves to engage, so.
One of the questions that I have too is, understanding that there are extremely valid reasons that there isn't necessarily just a thread of trust between communities. How can folks who are not a part of Indigenous Native communities start to build or establish a level of trust with their clients? We've talked about doing homework and talked about going inward, but are there some other things that clinicians can do that are very mindful and very intentional in working towards trust?
Well, so that's a very good question. The additional things that they can consider is, after they do their homework and after they, have established, an intention with them,
Mhm,
so that they can have that quiet moment. Because, when people are in recovery or people
mhm,
have had trauma, there are no quiet moments in their mind. They're always, so to speak, doing battle with something that's going on. And so when we create a place where they can take a nice deep breath, and then also create a space where we can just have a quiet moment of expressing a desire. And then what is really important is to share something that when they walk out the door, they feel that we've added value,
mhm,
and that is, I know it's very difficult sometimes because we all have stress and everything, but for us to be in a peaceful place, and also for us to be and that means that we have to create a sacred space within ourselves constantly, which I think is a really motivating factor, because everybody gets dusty from the trail, so to speak.
mhm,
So for us, besides doing, when we do our homework, that we kind of share, to be more real, and say, I wanted to create this rapport, and I wanted to, and, I read about this, and, I don't want to be, offensive in any way of your culture. And when we say those things, the person is saying, well, this person is really caring about me.
mhm.
When you're being, honest and truthful about how you want to approach the session, and those are the things that when people feel that the person is being as, as realistic as possible, but kind, and we're creating a beautiful space for them to come into, a safe space for them,
Mhm.
they're going to they're going to walk out the door and say, this person is someone I feel can add great value, and I felt very comfortable. The goal, and as my grandfather Charler would say, you can go to school and get a credential
Mhm.
to ride a horse and go into a barn and, show the horse your diploma and get on the horse. And if you didn't really accomplish the feeling and qualities of those things, the horse would throw you right off in a minute. And then another person would walk into the barn with no credentials and be riding the horse really well, because
Mhm.
it's all about what we feel when we interact with someone. It's what is in their mind body complex, their energy field, all of those things are what they pick up. And so when they feel comfortable and safe, because safety is the first thing. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to open up, or they're not going to interact, or they're not going to step into their stages of healing.
Mhm.
So I feel that not only with Native people, but with all of us, that we have to have that sacred space within us to be able to, so that they can feel that quality in us, and they can continue to talk about, what they're feeling, with us.
Folks, just real quick, if you have any questions, please feel free to hit the Q&A button or the chat button, and I'd be happy to filter those to Billie right here while we're talking. Billie, one of the things as you were talking about storytelling being so important that I was thinking about, it's just I know that folks are, clinicians, excuse me, are moving towards incorporating storytelling as a therapeutic method for a lot of things. I've talked recently to a clinician who uses it as part of eating disorder recovery, and uses a lot of mythology in order to help people, kind of connect to these archetypes. And has found that that can be especially beneficial, that they mostly work with women, but especially beneficial in helping people kind of be able to express what they're experiencing in a way that isn't all in I statements and so on. How do you, when you're working with folks and incorporating storytelling, what are some ways that you do that?
Well, there are several ways. It really depends on what you're gauging from your client, and because everybody's in different places, and they don't have a sign like I don't really like this, or I don't feel comfortable with it. And
Mhm.
these are things that you discover as time goes on. But I may talk about a wonderful story that my grandfather shared with me, or my elders shared with me, that really, you know, allowed me to have some insights about things. And I always want to share that, when I was going through this process myself, there's no perfectness. We don't come out of the
Mhm.
gate that way, and that it's so wonderful to share the imperfectness, of the 12-year-old that you were
Mhm.
when this happened, and because laughter, or at least some sense of humor about ourselves as practitioners, kind of allows for them to feel like, oh, I can talk to this person because that happened to
Mhm.
me, or yeah, that I like that, she doesn't stand on the pedestal and I'm not over here. We're human beings. I mean, there is a certain level, that you have to maintain your professionalism. There's no doubt about that. But there can be these times when you're really talking, as we say in the Native tradition, spirit to spirit.
Mhm.
When we are talking at that level, and sharing at that level. So that's one perspective, that's one application. And then the other part of that landscape is just making reference to a story in a book,
Mhm.
and talking about that, and saying, things like, okay, well, symbolically, I think that would kind of remind me of a person who really would like to share their ideas, but doesn't have an approach or an idea because they never were taught. So here's what we're going to, so, so you can use two different platforms of an outside source of a story or personal story or a story that really touched your spirit to, get more of a rapport going. So those two platforms have been very, very good for my practice.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that storytelling is such a powerful, I think, connection for people across so many cultures. And starting with oral tradition and written tradition, and I think that that's one of those things that's almost universally established. In as human beings, we like stories. We connect to stories. We use them in so many different ways, and most of that is about connection and communication. I'm curious too, when you're working with folks and, maybe they're not necessarily connected in the same way, to the idea of their own energy and their own connection to the earth and so on. And what are some ways that you help folks kind of start to make that journey towards, just that first step or, the first few steps?
Well, so within all of us, we are definitely, that pure seed of consciousness that connects with the earth in a very powerful and wonderful way. And maybe that got disconnected in some way. But if I see that a person doesn't have the same understanding or connection that I can make reference to, I will do basic things like ask them to utilize a moment in time when they can just run their hands through, the sand at the beach, take some of that, and take it home and, make a mess in your room or whatever whatever it is. I want them to start to reconnect with the natural world, because the natural world is really where we begin our we begin, and also we go back to very, very often. And when we lose that connection, that's when we start to have some difficulties in staying in a state of balance. So I try my best to give them small things that they can do to allow for them to kind of clear their mind of things that that might be repeating in their consciousness that isn't going to be of good service to them, by reestablishing themselves in some part of the natural world. And even if it is the contemplation of just water, I will tell them, this water that we have on this earth has been here since the inception of this earth. It's the same water, and we drink it, we experience it, and it is according to our tradition, is one of 12 sacred foods on this planet, and it is very healing for us. And I can share that with them, and ask them to contemplate it, and then come back and talk to me about it, and then I would share another story and another experience with them.
So just sort of slowly building a little bit at a time, helping them rediscover their connection. And when clinicians are working with folks who are clearly looking to reconnect, and there is a point where I've talked to a lot of different types of clinicians, and every one of them has talked about sometimes there's a point with a client where you have to acknowledge that you are no longer the best person to help them on the leg of their journey that they're starting on or that they're coming up with. And I'm curious if, when clinicians can run into that with folks who it's maybe not, there aren't a lot of options, right? So, especially in some more rural areas, sometimes the number of therapists you can find in the area in non-COVID times when, insurance won't cover your remote sessions or those kind of things. And they are the option. Like, what are some things or things they can encourage, or ways that they can help folks rediscover some of that community connection, if they don't have the option of working with somebody who will have that same kind of cultural connection.
So I think what you're trying to say is if you're wanting them to go to the next stage with
Mm-hmm.
with another practitioner, how would you gently do that? How would you? Well, I always like to use analogies. I like
Mm-hmm.
to use analogies of the journey, and also how we climb mountains and how we, how we go and approach, a hiking trip or anything like that. I like to use analogies. It really depends on the person and how they relate to the world. But I would use an analogy or a number of analogies, even in the natural world, how we would go to the next stage, because it's time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So analogies are wonderful, and we really, really have to learn how to be able to do that and also be the support structure. I remember when, my kids were growing up and we were out in a big, like a Gulf, it's a big, big part of the water, in a resort. Well, it wasn't a resort, it was a, place that they took care of animals and all. And
Mm-hmm.
we were swimming with dolphins, but they were holding on to me, so they could do that. And I just found it to be very interesting that they would be able to interact with these big, beautiful animals in the water only because they were kind of holding on to mom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they wouldn't be able to do it unless they had that. And I saw that to be very interesting. And but eventually, what transpired is they said, "I can let go of mom because now I have two hands and I everything is fine." And so the transition was there, that sometimes we do have to supply the support so that they can say, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. So I found it to be very interesting, and I did want to be that support structure to observe the wonderful thoughts, the maturity. Like, okay, I can let go, and then I can have two hands, and I can interact, and it's good. So so I use analogies like that to
Yeah,
help them to know that um, there is no form of abandonment. It is a form of support. So your journey can go into that next stage of blossoming and enjoying and all of that. So it's a really good, good thing as far as analogies are concerned to paint a
that's
picture for them in their mind.
that's terrific. That makes a lot of sense. And I think when yesterday we had a webinar talking about working with children and adolescents, and it was very similar in the, you know, making sure they understand it's not because it's abandonment, but it's because they've grown, and now here's the next thing that's going, or they're stepping into this, and it's not that you're not there to help them, or not there to help them like make those first couple of steps, but that at some point they're going to want to take the rest of them with both of their hands free.
Mhm.
Switching gears just a little bit, with COVID-19 and with all of, staying in place in that, do you think that the option of doing remote sessions has allowed for more clients to connect to people, to find more help? What do you think about it kind of in general as the impact it's had on Native Indigenous communities?
Well, we always um, when the COVID situation occurred, we knew that Mother Earth was asking for an energetic timeout
Mm-hmm.
to provide us with an energetic timeout so that we could look at ourselves and ask some wonderful and important questions. What is important to us? All of those things. We started to realize that, engaging with people and engaging with our families and just a simple hug, which was not possible for a while, really taught us the value of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really feel that there was so much wonderful things that transpired. And of course, there were a lot of sad things that transpired, that people have passed over and all of that. But the remote sessions that occurred, I mean, I wrote it on my Facebook page. These are the things that I'm going to keep as far as my practice is concerned. The Zoom sessions are wonderful. The sessions online are wonderful because we established a connection with people that we would not normally, have in Tel Aviv or in Japan or in Iceland or any of those places. And it was really wonderful. So we're definitely going to keep that in our platform. And I really feel that with the shelter in place, we really searched for ways to really help ourselves to understand, more about what we need to take care of and what we need to understand about ourselves. So I really feel that it really helped us quite a bit. We're human beings. We want to engage too, but this was an additional platform that I think a lot of the clinicians will be maintaining to allow for everybody to get the help that they need, which is, I think, wonderful. Of course, other things that I'll be keeping in my practice is the masks, because I really think that it was a very wise thing for us to do that, because it just really helped. I mean, we didn't have a flu season because of the mask, and really taught us about how we could actually communicate, exchange colds and flus and all of that. So that was really wonderful. And of course, I wear organic white gloves when I'm doing the energy work, which I really love. And I think it really helps make people feel much more comfortable, and so many other things. So, and of course, curbside pickup. When you're calling and you just in your car and you get this package of food that you can take home. I'm glad they're keeping that as well. So, I mean, so there were some really good pluses that transpired in what happened.
I think that I like especially that the option for remote sessions has made, I think, therapy accessible to more people. My husband grew up and I spent time in a really small town where there were probably, 3 therapists and 2 of them were with CMH. And if they were already seeing like your partner or something, and you could get into like conflict of interest or whatnot, and how as a queer teenager, if I had been able to find the internet wasn't a huge thing when I was a teenager, let's be real. But being able to find somebody where I could connect, and know, hey, our values at least seem aligned. And I know that this is a person I can connect with. It seems, for folks who have internet, because there are certainly people who don't have all of the necessary things to be able to take advantage of this new scenario. But when they do have that, I think it expands choice. It gives people more options. It means that they can look a little bit further into what do they really need and who do they think is the right clinician to fulfill that for them.
Right. And I really feel that, as I said, there are some really sad things that transpired. However, it really provoked us to really look inward quite a bit. And I think that that was really great, because there was a lot of self-discovery that transpired during that process. And the internet platform was really a wonderful plus, and one that I hope most clinicians and practitioners will keep, because it's so beneficial. I know that people really feel very benefited by it. They see that it added value.
So I think just to remind our folks, we've got about 10-15 minutes left. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or hit the chat button. We'd love to hear what's on your mind or what you're interested in learning about. One question that came up in the registration is whether or not there are any common cultural beliefs that impact whether or not somebody is willing to seek mental health support. Because there are some communities where it's, I've heard folks say, oh, I'm Mexican, so my family can't know that I'm going to therapy. And where there are these smaller family things, but they tend to extend out somewhat culturally. Are you aware of, or can you tell us about any occurrences of that clinicians should be aware of?
Well, I guess I'll reframe the question too.
Yeah, feel free.
how can we better reach these communities?
Hmm.
How can we better reach the Native communities? And I really feel the most important thing is engaging through some activities that help the community,
Hmm.
like gardening, getting a little, or doing some free things that will allow for them to see this does add value.
Yeah.
Or I feel education is really the most powerful weapon that we have in the world.
Hmm.
If we educate more people about the value of things, they will take more advantage of those services. And how you do that is you engage in different kinds of community efforts,
Hmm.
engage in different kinds of informal platforms of service. Sometimes when it's so formal, like, okay, so this organization is coming in and they're going to have a table and they're going to talk, it's almost unapproachable for some communities. Yeah,
Hmm.
but if we do things like what we talk about, one person at a time,
Hmm.
maybe a couple of efforts of helping the community build a community garden, or um, sharing some talks that are free, that would be comfortable and approachable for the people. All of those things are so very important. And also, we need to get to know the people in the community. You know, we 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 know the community, but if we get to know one or two of the connectors in the community, or any part of the community, and then start what we call in the Apache tradition, Toyosh Baye. Toyosh Baye means extended family member.
Hmm.
And anyone can be an extended family member. A companion animal can be toyoshpaye, or someone who comes around and helps us to work with the gardens, or work with helping crossing guards, all kinds of things that are more intricate
Yeah.
into the community. That's when we're going to really get the biggest value,
Hmm.
is by developing that type of rapport, and things like that. I remember my grandfather, when people would be moving in to the neighborhood, um, he would take one of our garbage cans, make sure it's empty, and bring it over and just leave it there and say, I know you're moving, you probably have tons of boxes. I'm bringing one of these extra garbage cans over for you. When you're done with it, let me know, I'll bring it back. And he established a friendship right away, right
That's
away,
amazing.
and it was just something small and informal, and just an act of kindness that established a connection, that, and of course, everybody said, well, gosh, this is a wonderful person. I really want to get to know this person. And he was a very wise elder. He just was sought after tremendously. But all these small things were the things that really made a big difference, as opposed to knocking at the door and saying, I'm your new neighbor, and I want to get to know you, and they're like, oh well, okay. So it's those kind of things that really help us to establish a rapport that's very meaningful, that really allows for people to take advantage of the services that you might have to offer.
That's I recently moved, so the extra boxes and garbage can for that I felt sort of deep in my soul as what a helpful thing to do. And that's, I think, that element of thinking about the person, not just thinking about, okay, I would like to do this because it sounds good, but here is an identifiable thing that I know they will need help with. And it's, it's low stakes, right? It's just saying, hey, I would like to connect with you. I'm going to try and solve a problem for you through an act of service, and I am here if you want to talk or if you want to do anything. And I think for that sense of, for clinicians, of making an entrance into talking to people in the community is probably, the just reframing, is a way to take that kind of first step too in building a bit of a bridge of trust. It's not just, I'm going to be in my office and I'm here if you need me. It's going out and saying, I am here and I would like to connect with you. And I understand that community is really important. So I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And it's the same way with all the kingdoms. If you want to create a rapport with a companion animal, I mean, you can say hello and they're going to say, well, it's kind of nice to see you. But when we create a rapport with that person in a very informal, intricate way, that's a very meaningful thing, speaks volumes about the person.
So we are just about at time, and I believe we have answered the questions that have come in. So I just want to kind of close this with asking, is there anything that you would like to share with me and the audience that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet, or that I didn't ask the right questions for yet?
Well, one of the things that I do want to end this wonderful lecture with is that as practitioners, we symbolically represent an expressed desire for healing. That is our goal, is to create space in the in a place where healing needs to happen. And so we want to always remember every day that with our sacred space that we have within us, we can speak, and so it's really important for all practitioners to have that sacred space and have that sacred balance. That really is a very important thing, because we cannot give what we do not have. And so it's really important for us to know that we are always going to be learning from every experience, and also that what the goal is to share our wonderful medicine, in the exchange of words, feelings, rapport. All of those things are very, very important for us. And but the most important thing for us as practitioners is to come from that place of center, and that is where we're going to do our best work. So through that, nature, working with the natural world, meditation is a very important tool, and also just all the other things that we know are going to be very beneficial for our clients should really be part of our practice as well. And with the Indigenous people, we have never lost our connection with our great purpose of being stewards of the land, and that the land has great wisdom. And even when we walk on the land, it's going to give us this great sustenance of medicine. So with that, I thank you so very much for being with me. It's a pleasure and an honor, and I hope to see you one day soon. Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you so much. I really appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us. Folks, if you would like to watch or share this with anybody else, we will have a replay up at the same URL that you signed up at. That's allcounselors.com/events. Thank you again. This has been fantastic, and I really hope we get a chance to speak again in the future.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Thank you.
Bye.